Hello, everyone, and welcome to the writers class. Yeah, I'm going with writers class today. So, this is like we're going to talk about writing and formats. No, maybe not format. I bet you she's traditionally published. So format isn't the thing for her. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Winona. I completely forgot to introduce myself. And I guess I should say I'm one of the end I thought ladies. I don't know. Since it's like Memorial Day, I'm like straight up chilling. I can't even pull up the energy to be like, what? I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. But I do have to say one thing before we move on. Hair flip. Because dang, it's cute. Okay, done. Whew, I'm not as cute as I normally am. So I can't even go on to the whole spiel about look at these cheekbones. I can't because it's not that cute today. Now tomorrow, you'll see. Anyway, you're not here to hear. Oh, I almost skipped over an entire important part, which is about books. We wrote books. And when I say we, I don't mean that they're like two personalities hiding out in me. Although if they were, it would be like wonderful and glamorous. And maybe with a splash of, oh my goodness, wow. Just a titch. And it's normally a Jade sitting over here, and she's normally the serious one. She would have stopped that horrible joke that I just said. She would have been like, yo, stop that right now. But that's what I mean by we. The books are And I Thought Divorce Was Bad, And I Thought Being Grown Up Was Easy, If Only I Were Me, a memoir in verse, If Foreign Coffee, Widow's Web, and Widow's Debt. And if you're counting along with me, that's 6 books. You know how this goes. This is the math part where I pull out a little sign language, pull out a little simple math, because we wrote 17 books. So you know what that means? Oh, I'm sorry, sign language. We wrote 17 books. So you know what that means? That means there's 11 that are missing. So that means you can go to www.andithoughladies.com and find those 11 written, printed books. The other 6 books are audiobooks. You can get them wherever your audiobooks are found. Yeah, we always push the audiobooks because, who wants to read it when you can have someone read it to you? You'd be like, I'm walking down the street and getting smart. I'm not saying that my books make you smart. I'm just saying audiobooks should make you smart. I'm gonna do it one more time because since Jade isn't here, I gotta do it like I'm selling cars. And you can find out everything that your ladies are up to at www.andithoughladies.com. See, even that was flat. This is not a good day. When you're on vacation, you should not do interviews. But you're not here to hear about me and my vacation non-interview day. You're here to hear about our wonderful guests. Wonderful guests, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, thank you so much, Winona. My name is Laura Moe. I'm an author. I am a hybrid. I do know about formatting because I have been traditionally published, and I've self-published a couple of books. So I do know about how important it is for formatting. And I actually want to give a plug for one of your books that I'm reading. I think I love it. I actually listened to an audio sample online, but I don't have Audible on my phone. I don't know why. I have a library. I get them free through the library. But
where's your library at?
Well, Seattle has libraries all over the place.
Okay.
Like pretty much every neighborhood has a branch, and I live just north of Seattle in Linwood. There's a library about a mile away from me. But I tell you, I agree with you about audiobooks. They actually got me through the pandemic when the libraries were closed, but I was able to download a lot of books and, at least have them read to me, or I could download ebooks as well. But I do both. I think reading is important. But the thing I really like about your book, and you wrote it with Jade, the voice is just great. And when the recorded version, the voice, both of you are talking in there, and it's almost like it's like watching a sitcom. And but I really appreciate reading your book. I'm about halfway through that one, so I'm recommending one of your books. So
wow. You're halfway through. Woo, good job. I'm glad you didn't get And I Thought Divorce Was Bad. Most people, it takes them a while to get through. Not because it's bad, they're just like, it's so sad.
Oh,
I'm like, I don't feel like it's sad.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. But
well, I think this, and I thought growing up, it kind of reminds me of my own young and stupid days, and where you worked 3 jobs and you still couldn't make your rent. and you had to live on ramen noodles and, hope that you had like once a month, I knew I was going to get a home cooked meal from a family that they sort of, I guess I had worked for them at one time and I babysat for them a lot. And I always liked when they invited me over for dinner about once a month because I knew at least we'd get something good to eat once a month.
Oh, I remember the days. I
You know,
remember.
the young and
Wow.
stupid college days where, you went to cheap bars because you could get a pitcher of beer for $2. Everybody could throw their money in there. Yeah.
Oh, good. Those were good times. You know what's funny is like the older you get, the more you look back at like, when I was 21.
Yeah.
Ooh, the fun I had. And then you enjoy buying something good for yourself and be like, this is delicious.
Yeah. Like, if you actually went to a restaurant, it was like, wow, But then when you get older and, you get a job and you actually have money and you're able to pay for it, it's not quite as special. But I still don't, I don't want to go back to working 3 jobs and not having any money and, every day praying my old beater car would start,
Yup. Oh my goodness. Man, you're taking me back.
Yeah, well, you're taking me back with your book. So if your listeners want to kind of go back to their young and stupid, college days, there you go. But I guess that's not what we're here to talk about.
No, we're here to talk about you.
Okay. Well, I'm not that interesting now.
Yes, you are. You're a hybrid publisher. So you're a hybrid published author. So right. I have to ask the question: what are the differences between self-publishing and traditional?
Well, having been traditionally published now, I understand why it takes, once you sign a contract on a book, I understand why it takes about a year, sometimes longer, by the time you sign the contract for that book to come out. Because I think the biggest advantage, well, there's several advantages, but one of the biggest is you're going to be edited 3 different times. You have, there was the acquisitions editor, and then she had recommended that I had, for me to rewrite 2 chapters. And then I had a developmental editor, and then the copy editing, and that's where the nitty gritty, where you find little mistakes. But even though you've gone through the editing process, every traditionally published book I've read still has typos in it. My own was, when I got my ARCs, the advanced reader copy, I was, I flipped through it and I found a missing word on page 11. It's like, immediately emailed the copy editor because the ARCs aren't the final, but it's like I found a missing word, and they were able to fix it. I read through it and I found like 2 or 3 mistakes. So that's, and you don't pay for them to do that. With self-publishing, of course, you pay for everything. You pay for the formatting software. And if you're going to get your book edited, you pay for an editor. Pay for a cover designer, and then you have to pay for your own advertising. The advantage of self-publishing is that you have control over all of that and how it's managed. And I have some friends who have been, actually everybody in my critique group is hybrid, and one of my friends in that group is making a lot more money with her self-published stuff than she had ever with her traditionally published stuff. So, and she likes to be able to have some control. And she's also had audiobooks made of some of hers. And so she's doing really well, but you have to be able to want to do the work of, part of it, you have to sketch out part of your day with writing, and part of it you have to be able to market.
Exactly. You do. Like, we just did a conference and we spent about a third of that conference on, hey, let's learn how to market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Between press and marketing, you have your hands full. But yeah. So can you tell us a bit about the traditional side? Like, what did you like about it? Well, I know it's pretty much the same question, but I'm a little obsessed with traditional because, I'm waiting to go through the process.
Right. I still think it's, I know some of my writer friends say, oh, I'm just never going to do that. I always want control. But probably the biggest thing about getting traditionally published is that it gives you street cred as far as strangers have read your book and they like your work. Because your friends and family are always going to say, oh, you're brilliant. Everything you write is brilliant, which we all know is not. But for me, the biggest kick was being able to send it, a complete stranger read it and said, I really like your manuscript. That told me she understood my work and she was willing to take a chance on my work. So that was probably the coolest thing. And also you get recognition in a way that somebody else is doing some of that publication, some of the publicity. You still have to do your own, even unless you are like a superstar, like Stephen King, James Patterson. They don't have to market their work. But probably 95% of us out there who are traditionally published still have to promote. But I really like doing talks, author talks, or going to a conference and being on a panel. And I don't mind that. I think because I've been a teacher for a number of years, I'm okay with making a fool of myself in front of an audience.
So I think we're going to segue here. I was going to jump into another question, but I'm going to tell you, we never segue on the show, barely ever. But like, high five to me because I thought of a segue. Segue. Right. Since you said, oh shoot, forgot the segue, made a big to do. Now it just slipped right out of my head. Oh goodness, I'm gonna have to ask you the librarian and teacher question. Oh, that's
well, maybe if you could interrupt me if it comes back to you.
So you were a librarian.
I was.
And a teacher. How did it help you with your writing?
Well, I think probably because I worked in a high school I worked in a middle school, I worked in a high school, and then two high schools, then a middle school for a while. And then that district, our middle school combined with the high school to make one big, huge school. So I've had a lot of exposure to young adults. And that's what my Breakfast with the NERUDA, my first novel, is a young adult novel. And one of the compliments I get from readers is that everybody sounds natural. It's like I wasn't trying too hard to sound like a teenager when the dialogue. That the dialogue sounds like how kids would talk and how they would act. So I think that helped. That helped me also give me ideas for writing, and knowing what the types of books the kids would like to read. So, but I was a librarian / English teacher. So,
all right, we're going back, and I'm gonna try to do this. I'm gonna try to save my segue. She said she doesn't mind talking and like making a fool of herself. And then I noticed that on her website it says podcast, and I kept clicking on links, and you were the one doing a lot of talking. So I'm confused. Did you get interviewed or did you have the podcast?
Well, if I had a guest that wasn't really, I was the podcaster. And if I had a guest that was kind of reticent about talking, then I probably had to talk more. But some of my best ones were ones where I had a dialogue with, an author, and we could talk about stuff on the same level. That's what I liked best about that podcast, kind of author to author type talk.
So you don't have it anymore?
No, I had it for about 2 years, and I just couldn't keep doing it. It was I had other things going on because I am a president of a writing group here in the Seattle area. It's an Edmonds-based group called Epic Group Writers, stands for Every Person is Creative. And I just didn't have enough time in my week, because one of the things I was doing it once a week, and then I backed off to every other week. But my producer told me, she goes, you don't have to read all the books, like I thought that I needed to read at least one book of when a person was doing that. And I think because as a writer, I know how hard it is to write a book. And I at least wanted to read part of their books so that I could open up a dialogue with them about it and ask them. So I probably overdid it, but it also helped me generate questions rather than my standard, who's your favorite author, what do you have on your nightstand, sometimes I would resort to those if I couldn't get the author to engage. But yeah, I'm not doing it anymore. But kudos to you and Jade for doing this, because it's fun, isn't it?
It is a blast and a half, and it makes us meet so many different and new people. It's so much fun. But I'm not going to talk about me because the show is not about me. Although, as the narcissist, I feel like it's about me and my hair. So my next question was about your writing process, because you have written multiple titles. So how do you do it? Pantser, planner? How do you get your characters? How do your ideas come to you? Just tell us everything.
I'm a pantser. I have no idea what I'm doing when I start a book. I just start writing. And my second and third books actually were one giant manuscript. I just kept writing and writing and writing. And my critique group had told me, they said, you actually have 2 books here, and they pointed out where here's the arc of this story and here's the arc of that story. And so I had to divide them up. So what had been part of 125,000 manuscript half of that became Blue Valentines, which is it's not a direct sequel, but it's a companion to Breakfast with Neruda, because it has the same lead characters. And then The Language of the Sun became the third one. And I had only planned, well, I actually hadn't even planned to write more than Breakfast with Neruda, but the characters kept coming back to me because, our imaginary friends talked to us, because writers were a little crazy. And during the pandemic, I actually wrote a 4th one. And it's a road novel. It's a road trip where one of the main character in all of the novels, he and his sister and father could take a road trip across the country in an RV. And I think it's because during the beginning of the pandemic, we weren't going anywhere. So it was a way of getting out by writing it.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that I think I rewrote stuff about Greece and stuff, but I thoroughly understand why you wouldn't want to do that. Oh my word, that was so nice. So how did you get to write Michael Flynn? How did he come to your head?
Well, I think because my years of experience, he's not based on one person. He's based on, where I taught school was in Southeastern Ohio, and Schuster, Ohio is a fictional town, but it's probably, there are elements of the region where I lived. And I knew many students who some of them lived in their cars, some of them lived in garages. It was it was Appalachian Ohio, and it actually a more poverty-prone part of Ohio. And some people said, Ohio's not part of Appalachia, but actually there is a segment that is. And so I knew a lot about that kind of lifestyle. And one of the last school district I worked in, when they first hired us, they took all of the new hires on a bus tour of the district to show us where people lived. Some of these roads were not even roads. In fact, the bus broke down on one of them. We had to go back down one of these because there just wasn't a road there. It couldn't accommodate a bus, but there were some of these, kind of, I guess, they were just shacks that people were living in. And these were kids who lived in our district. So we had, I think there were 65% were on free and reduced lunch. So
that's interesting. Wow. That was so serious. So seriously just derailed my next question. I was like, let's talk about because you have Michael and then you have to find a match in Sarah. And I just wanted to know what personality quirks that you're like, oh no, she has to have this in order to match Michael. But I really want to talk about the poverty, but let's talk about Sarah.
About, you mean?
Shelley.
Shelley.
Sorry,
yeah.
I said Sarah.
Yeah, I thought, who is Sarah?
Right?
Well, I love Shelley because she's out there. And she's a contrast to him in a lot of ways, because he's kind of I wouldn't call him necessarily shy, but he's very inward, and very intelligent kid. And he reads a lot. And Shelley is from a fairly wealthy family. I mean, he's living in his car, but she lives in this house that has 4-car garage, overlooking a lake. But she doesn't judge him. And that's one of the things I like about her, is that because she has her own demons. And as they get to know each other, they do share that with each other. So
I love that this book is really like a dive into the emotional of two people from two different sides of the tracks. And since I can't do that, I'm always like, how do you do it? Is there a secret sauce?
I think I just let the characters do the talking. It's almost like, now this is going to sound nuts, but it's almost as if I'm channeling these people. I let the characters talk. This is why I don't outline, because I actually like the discovery, people who pants their way through things. It's not efficient, but it's a lot of fun because you just discover things as you go along and as you draft. My original draft it started in the wrong place, and there were some of the scenes were too convoluted. But that's the beauty of writing, is the real writing happens in revision. The first draft is only the scaffold of a story. It can't stand up on its own for the most part. And that's after that. And I tend to be an inefficient writer because I will write more than I need, but then I can cut stuff. I can cut to the chase, and I'm literally cutting and pasting scenes, to develop that story arc. Because sometimes I write scenes out of order, just like filmmakers film them out of order. And then I kind of move the puzzle pieces around by the final draft.
That's great. I love that. That's one of the ways we do our first page, is we do it out of order. We do it how we see it, and then we cut and paste and move it around and be like, oh no, that's the first page. That's how.
Yeah. I know my own process by now. I know I'm going to start in the wrong place, but at least if I get started writing, then I can keep going, and I can just keep writing and writing and writing. And even if I know a scene isn't working, I'll put notes to myself, and it's like, this scene will have to be moved. I'll put it in brackets or in all caps, like, this isn't the place for this. And that's a reminder. So when I go back and reread my manuscript, then I know that scene was not in the right spot.
So how did you get your literary agent?
Well, I actually don't have an agent. I tried, but between I had 100 rejections. So I thought, okay, that's my magic number. And then I thought, well, my next step is to look for publishers who don't require representation. And the first publisher I sent it to said yes. And Merit Press was acquired by Simon & Schuster. So it's a Simon & Schuster title, because otherwise I would probably not be a Simon & Schuster author without an agent.
Yeah, definitely. Can you tell everyone where they can find out more information about, oh wait, I lied. What does the Epic Writers Association do? Like, what type of events do they have? What kind of speakers do they have come in?
Okay, well, Epic Group Writers, it's a small group. We only have about 100 members, but because of the pandemic, we actually have members that don't live in this area now. I think we have one in Waco, Texas. We have another one in Nebraska, because we started during the pandemic. We did all our workshops online, so people would find out about it. I managed the Twitter page, and I would tweet these out, because it's like, it doesn't matter where you live. You're welcome to take this workshop. We offered a lot of free stuff because I really wanted our membership to cut, like they got some of, they got what their money's worth. But we had a few paid workshops as well. And we've had, well, Ellen Hopkins and Jeff Sentner did some free workshops for our teens. Let's see, Cat Falls, I think, also did one for us. And we had a poet named Ebo Barton, a local poet, and they did a workshop for us as well for our teens. So we were offering things for teen writers as well. Now that we're back to meeting in person, we just did an in-person event last week, and then the week before that we had an in-person, our contest winners. We have an annual contest, and our contest winners got to read, and we had about 45 people there, which was, it was phenomenal. I didn't expect that many people to come, but I think people are really wanting to get out. But we do our open mics and this contest winning event and our social event. We do these at a place called Cafe Louvre. It's in Edmonds, and great accommodations. She always makes, we just tell her how much food we want and we give her a check and people show up, and she serves coffee, drinks, and wine. So, we usually provide food for these things, but then people buy their own wine and beverage. And it works out. It's a win-win for everybody.
Sounds like it. Sounds like a win-win. Any place that there's wine, I'm like, win-win.
Yeah.
That's all wine. Wine is a win with a E. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So do you guys think you will be doing a writers conference in the future?
Well, we probably won't, just because there is a writers conference that happens every year in Edmonds called Write on the Sound. And we do things associated with it, but we're not partnering with them. But we usually have something like, we'll provide events. Like before the pandemic, we used to have some of our epic writers, board members would volunteer to do dinner with a writer, and where we would meet, people who came to the conference could pair up with one of our board members, and we could walk them to a local restaurant. We also do an open mic, so that participants of the Write on the Sound, we host the open mic, and at the cafe, in fact. So I don't know if we're doing that this year, because I think Write on the Sound is also virtual. This is probably their third year doing it virtually. But there may be, I think they're looking at the numbers. The numbers, I don't know about Maryland, but the numbers here in Washington are going up again, even though people are vaxxed to the max. I still wear a mask when I go to the grocery store and indoor events.
Oh, it's the same here.
Yeah.
They were very high. Unfortunately, we live near someone who works at the hospital, and they were telling us about the deaths.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh, people are dying again. Okay, I'm staying.
Yeah,
here.
That's kind of amazing, because we've always been told if you've been vaccinated. I'm double vaxxed and double boosted, so. But I don't know. We're not having much fun with this topic, are we?
No, we're not. But
to change the subject.
Yeah, I was just about to. I was just like, well, I think this is a good place to wrap it up so we can be on something different.
Yeah.
So what do you think you'll be writing next? What are you working on now?
Well, I'm actually working on a screenplay. I have written a pilot for the my first book, because I own the screen rights. So Simon & Schuster still has the book rights, and I recently obtained the audio rights, because I have I'm not going to narrate it, but I think it would actually help my circulation, and help build an audience, because there is a different audience for audiobooks. I started listening to audiobooks when I was still teaching, because it kind of, in the morning, I'd be, 6:30 in the morning, it's still dark out. And it's like, he just, keeps you from falling asleep at the wheel. But now here in Seattle, he keeps you from getting road rage because our traffic's horrible here.
I like y'all's traffic. It's slower than DC and nicer than LA.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's interesting traffic.
But I like I like listening to audiobooks. The problem is, if you're listening to a really good one, sometimes you'll forget, like you'll just keep listening. I've done this a couple times when the Crawdads sings, or
yeah,
that one, I missed the turn to my own house. I'm like, oh crap, I live back there, So I drove around a little bit, and I did that twice when I was listening to that book because it was so well narrated.
Yeah, a narrator. I remember the first time that I heard my book come to life, and I was like, this is as close as I'm getting to a movie probably. And oh my goodness, the narrator just made it like, I was like, is that my book? Are those my words?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, you read them and you have this voice in your head and you know what you think they sound like, and then the narrator does it, and oh wow. But
yeah,
I think it has something to do with the process of being like a narrator. You don't like turn pages and read. You like print the script out, and sometimes you break it down into dialogue and to like actual description parts. And can you tell I occasionally narrate on the side?
Well, I think there is.
You get into the box and you figure out who's saying what and what voice you're going to use. So it's a different format to reading a book anyway. So I think that's why it's just beautiful when they do it.
Yeah. And if a book isn't well narrated, I don't usually keep listening to it. I mean, there are some, my favorites are the British narrators. I really love to hear the accent, So I listen to a lot of ones that I know, British narrators. And there's actually a really well-known actor named Scott Brick, who he's narrated a lot of audiobooks. It's like, if I see Scott Brick as a narrator, I'll check the book out from the library or download it on my phone. It's like, oh yeah, Scott Brick is a great narrator. He is well known. I think authors fight over being able to have him narrate.
Do they now?
Yeah, I mean,
when we're off of this, we gotta talk. Wait, do you want Scott to narrate your book?
Well, the podcast, I watched your episode. I think you had the one who was an agent for Scott Brick. I think she mentioned him because you were talking to people who I think there were screenwriters and somebody who worked with audio people.
Oh yeah, his manager used to be the VP of marketing for a movie
studio. So audiobook readers, they're generally actors. The best ones are actors.
Yeah.
And
definitely. I was asking, I was like, is that like your goal? Like your perfect narrator for your book? Is Scott Brick like the perfect narrator?
I don't know. His voice might actually be a little bit too, I don't know. There's a guy who narrated a book called Jesus' Son. He's an actor as well, and I really liked his narration. And then there's another one who I think it's Phil Pullman had narrated On the Road by Jack Kerouac, and I liked his. I'm thinking something along the line of that, but I do own the rights. But the thing is, I'll have to invest money to hire an actor and then find out about distribution.
Exactly.
I know nothing about that.
You have a little work ahead of you, just a tinge.
I have a little work, but the first thing I'd like to do is actually sell the pilot, because I have a friend he's in Hollywood, and he works for a production company, and he kind of planted the idea because he loved Breakfast with Neruda. He said, this needs to be a movie. And I said, actually, I'd like it to be a streaming series, because I have enough material to have 4 seasons of 6-episode seasons. So the pilot is written. I'm going into a little bit of rewrite because I had entered a contest for it and got some feedback. And I'm sort of like looking at my rookie mistake, but I'm learning a lot about, I'm actually, I think I'm improving my story. The scenes in the pilot are different in different order than they are in the book.
So I'm out of time. I'm way over time.
Okay. Okay.
But I do want to slip this one question in. What did you learn taking your book and adapting it into a screenplay? Can you just tell us 3 pieces of advice you would give anyone that wants to do this?
You're working in 2 different mediums. A book is you have a narrator inside your head, whereas when you're writing a screenplay, you need to be able to tell that story visually. All that interior monologue has to either come out in dialogue, or it's, you have to show it. You have to show it more because it's on the screen.
Okay. So where can people find your book and find out more about you? You can throw your social media handles out there if you want to.
Oh, sure. Well, I should have grabbed a couple. I didn't prepare to have them with me. Breakfast with Neruda. That one is traditionally published, so you should be able to order that from Amazon or buy it, get it at a Barnes and Noble. The others, you'll need to order Blue Valentines and the Language of the Sun. Right now we're on Amazon, and you could find, even many libraries have Breakfast with Neruda. I am on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Laura Mo Writer. So I have a Facebook writer page, but I hardly ever go to Facebook. I haven't been on there for a couple of months, so I don't have anything new on my Laura Mo Writer page. But
all right. Thank you so very much, Ms. Mo, for taking time out of your holiday to come talk to us.
Well, thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up for us over here. And when I say us, I mean the missing Jade is normally
your imaginary Jade friend.
Yeah. So I'm so used to saying us. So I'm Winona, one of the And I Thought Ladies. I really got to stop saying that because that is not how Jade ends the show. But you can find out everything that your ladies are doing at www.andithoughladies.com. And while you're there, go down to the middle of the page and you can see the charities that we proudly support. We ask that you take this a little time out, give them a little help because times are difficult. We thank you in advance for that. Remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona and the missing Jade. Oh yeah, thanks for listening.